Welcome back, friends of Take 5. This is our chance to speak one-on-one with top leaders here in the nation's capital. Today is an expanded version, and I'm very happy to welcome the CEO of AdvaMed, the Advanced Medical Technology Association, Scott Whitaker.
Thanks, Jack. It's great to be here. I've enjoyed watching your shows as well. All the leaders you've brought on, it's been fun to watch.
Thanks for that, and I enjoy yours, the POV podcast that you have with your leaders that you have had on, including starting with Magic Johnson and even General Mattis as well. Two very different speakers, but both were pretty compelling.
Yeah, it's been fascinating for me. I've learned a lot from the speakers who have come on. Leadership lessons, business lessons, a variety of lessons we've learned from them. And it's also been a really great opportunity for us to tell our story of MedTech, because I've had a lot of our CEOs come on and learn more about them both as people and how they've led these incredible organizations. And it's just been amazing, and I've enjoyed it.
I listened to the one with Mike Masalem, and I just really enjoyed hearing his career path and what Edwards is doing now, and then sort of weaving into industry issues as you were discussing. Well, welcome back to the Willard, and welcome to Bigwig Studios here. Especially happy to have you just because of my own history with the industry, having served for 7 years at Covidien, now Medtronic, and also having been in the last administration at the FDA and HHS and dealing with all kinds of important issues, although I left before COVID, and I know we're going to talk a little bit today about 2021 and 2020 and, you know, the very important role that your member companies have held. I do, on a lighter note, one of those say, you know, with the news of Tom Brady and his retirement, it's gotten me thinking about Boston and getting the AdvaMed tie-in, because your first conference held outside of DC was in Boston.
Right.
When I was at Covidien, and our CEO actually was chair of your host committee, and I remember my senior colleague Eric Krause was able to deliver Robert Kraft, who gave one of the most compelling keynote speeches that I've actually heard at any trade association conference. And I guess you guys have some news about this year in Boston.
Yeah, we are. We're going back to Boston again this year for our conference, and it will be the first fully in-person conference that we have had since the pandemic. Canceled the one in 2020. Then we had a hybrid version of it in 2021. But we're hoping that everyone will be back in person. It'll be an opportunity for us to rally together again and celebrate coming out of this pandemic and all the work our industry has done, which has just been amazing during the course of the pandemic, and I'm really proud of them.
Great to hear, and hopefully more associations are going to be doing the same thing and just sort of reconvening again in person. Well, today we hope to better get to know you, really understand your thoughts about the year that we just left, 2021, and really look at your top 5 issues for 2022 as you look ahead for the industry. And speaking of 2021, I just wanted to highlight that your association received some pretty significant and high marks from the APPCO Trademark study that looks at all trade associations here in DC and how they perform in various categories. And so kudos to you and the team for receiving best in class in a number of categories.
Yeah. Well, Jack, thanks for mentioning that. And, you know, what an honor to be recognized by APPCO in this regard. I think member services was one of the categories we were recognized in. That makes me feel particularly good, because all we do is really about serving our members. And so getting that recognition in that category was heartening. Information resource was another area we were recognized for. You want to, as a trade association, make sure the information you're sharing both with members, the media, and those on the Hill is accurate and of a high quality. And so the recognition there was very good. And then I want to applaud our media relations team, who is recognized as well, who did a great job under Jim Jeffrey's leadership, along with Greg Christ and the whole team. Just remarkable what they did during the pandemic year. So we appreciate the recognition, but it's really a recognition of our members, because our members are what make us, AdvaMed, the organization that we are today.
Well, that is fantastic. And when you look at 2021 and what you all were dealing with, you had year 2 of the pandemic, where you all were absolutely, in your member firms, key players, a brand new administration, first with some vaccine successes. Operation Warp Speed was handed to the new administration, lots of success with vaccines, but then some testing issues in terms of supplies and challenges. I know you all involved in some intense negotiations on the medical device user fee safety
Right.
issue. And I guess you guys are planning a move of your actual association headquarters at the same time.
Yeah, well,
talk to us about this.
we are,
year.
yeah. We have a lot going on, and that's a good thing. At AdvaMed, we like to be busy. We like to be moving forward on meaningful projects, and we're doing that on all levels right now. You know, I look at 2021 now in hindsight, and in many ways it was really just an extension of 2020. At the end of 2020, we all thought maybe the pandemic was over, but the reality was the work that we did in 2020 really carried over into 2021. When you think about our industry and how they engaged in the pandemic, it was remarkable. From the first time we heard about it, started with personal protective equipment, and then it was the ventilators, and then it was hospital equipment, and then it was testing, diagnostic testing, that we had to scale up and manufacture in an unprecedented way with the support of the previous administration. That took a lot of our efforts, and our companies rallied in a way that was remarkable. I think looking back, history will judge us very, very well. And I was proud to be a part of it. You never want to go through a time like that, Jack. You would love to avoid it. But when you get through it, you realize what we accomplished, and it was quite amazing.
If I can just interrupt real quick. I'm so glad you just sort of laid it out for the listeners and viewers, those three buckets, because I don't think people necessarily realize that what falls under the umbrella of AdvaMed does encompass the PPE, those incredible, ventilators that at the beginning were so necessary, and the diagnostic testing. And those ventilators, I remember one of your member firms saying, we want to open up education of how to use ventilators so that it doesn't really matter which that you use. We want to further share this information with those providers that may not know because they're just not used to using them. Yeah,
that's exactly right. A number of our companies did that. They open sourced really the information necessary to build a ventilator when we were struggling with scaling up. An amazing thing that they did for the entire healthcare system in the U.S., but not just in the U.S., globally. Right? Because at that time in 2020 early, we thought we were going to have a crisis of ventilators, and we did to some degree. But we met that crisis, and in the end, it wasn't as bad as we thought. But it was an amazing experience, and it showed what you can do in public-private partnerships with the previous administration and the engagement we had with them. If it weren't for the work they did and the work that our companies did, we could have easily had a shortage, but thankfully we didn't.
Great to hear you say that. Well, let's look at 2022 and really focus on it. I'm really curious what you see as the big challenges that are facing the industries as well as opportunities.
Yeah. I would highlight two for you, Jack, primarily. One is in the regulatory space. The other is in the reimbursement space. And the themes in both spaces are the same. You want clarity, predictability, and certainty around the regulatory environment and also the payment environment. And over the course of the last few years, the FDA has done a tremendous job, particularly during the pandemic, right? But now that we're coming out of it, we've got to get back to regular business and getting new technologies to market as quickly as we can, because at the end of the day, it's the patients who need those technologies to change their life. So we're very focused early in this year on making sure that the user fee agreement gets done, that FDA has the support that they need, that there's accountability built into that as well. And at the end of the day, there's predictability in the regulatory system so patients get those products that are so essential to saving lives. And then on the payer side, it's similar, working with CMS and private payers as well. Once a product gets approved by the FDA, it needs to get reimbursed by someone in order for patients to get access to it. So the same themes on the reimbursement side are going to be very important to us. Jack, you know about MCIT, the Medicare Coverage of Innovative Technologies. You were involved in that when you were at HHS. This administration decided not to go forward with that rule. We feel like that was a mistake, but we're continuing to work with them to come up with a new version of it that really gets these new technologies to patients sooner rather than later. It's a high priority for us.
Yeah, I saw and read the great disappointment that you all had with that decision, and yet pretty quickly pivoted with some very thoughtful comments, to help to move the administration to a better place.
Yeah, I think that's right. You've been in this town for a long time, Jack. You don't always get what you want. And it's not necessarily a partisan issue. It's just that people have different philosophies and different views. We can't spend much time worrying about whether or not they agreed or disagreed with the last administration's interpretation of this. You got to move quickly to change your direction, because as I said earlier, it's not about us. It's not about AdvaMed. It's not about the MedTech companies per se. everything we do is about patients, and patients in the Medicare program are waiting for breakthrough technologies. So you pivot quickly and say, how can we get these technologies to them sooner? That's what our focus is, and we're working diligently with this leadership team at HHS to make sure that happens soon.
Great. That is great to hear. I guess shifting to growth opportunities that you see for the industry and opportunities maybe on the Hill.
Yeah, amazing time for the industry. I think the convergence of information technology and traditional devices has really come to a point now where connected health and connected technology is changing the way that patients get access and treatment in many of the technologies that we develop. And I think the digital health space, for example, the telehealth space has been transformative to the healthcare system. I think the future in connected healthcare or in digital health is where the growth is going to be. That's not to suggest in other areas there isn't growth, there certainly is. But that really is exciting, I think, from a technology standpoint and also from a patient access standpoint as well.
Nice, nice. Anything else that you want to add to this coming year?
Well, I'm excited about the coming year, and I think because it feels like we're coming out of the pandemic, Jack. It feels like it's almost over. I hope that's right.
Yeah.
But when we come through that, I think we're going to be a lot stronger as a result of it. I've said a number of times during the pandemic, if there's one great lesson for us as a trade association and for governments as well, it's that public-private partnership matters. And partisanship doesn't help. And if you can collaborate with the government in a way to get solutions for patients and citizens, that's what we're all about as a trade association. And that's going to be our focus, right? Working with governments, working with leaders to help sure solutions are getting to patients. That'll be our focus on everything we do. So I'm looking forward to 2022. It's going to be a great year in many ways because the emerging technologies that our companies are working on is just fascinating. And it's great to be a part of this industry, an amazing industry.
It's so great to hear you talk about public-private partnerships because when you think about BARDA and those structures that were created back in the Bush administration, not enough people talk about how that was the framework that allowed for when an emergency does happen, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's some sort of bioterror event, that a process is in place for quickly expanding on partnerships and funding them so that, the tests can be manufactured and huge purchases can be made and what's been done on the vaccine and therapeutic side. So hopefully it's a time as people are looking forward to realize that bipartisanship that occurred back in, when was that, 2001 and 2 and 3, when you were in government, can occur going into the future to help us prepare for the next emergency.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because BARDA is a great example of foresight that's needed in order to avoid calamity in the future, right? And one of the things that was so important about BARDA and much of the work we did there, which led to the agreement under Operation Warp Speed, was creating predictability for the private market so they could scale up and manufacture at a level the government needed without having to risk loss. And that happened in BARDA. It carried over, frankly, to Operation Warp Speed. We've seen some of those elements as well in the testing issues that we've had. And that's exactly right. It's a public-private partnership that moves this country forward. And we're committed to that and excited about the future based on that.
I heard Dr. and Admiral Brett Gerard talking about this very topic.
Yeah.
Why don't we wrap up? This has been wonderful, and I just want to end with you letting us know sort of what's coming ahead on the POV podcast that you run with opinion leaders and your own board members.
Right. Well, this year is going to be fun too. Last year was fun as we launched it for the first time. It's going to be a similar theme. I'm not going to forecast exactly who's coming on yet, but it's going to be a mix of government leaders, public policy thinkers and leaders, our CEOs, and hopefully, Jack, you and I both enjoy sports, hopefully some athletes or maybe some coaches that might come on and talk to us about leadership lessons in that area as well. So we're going to try to be broad about this and excited about what's to come. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice teaser there from the Kentucky super fan. I understand you guys are number 5 right now.
Number 5 right now. Yeah, let's see if we can hold on. It's a long season, so we'll see.
I'm a Demon Deacon, although married into a Duke family where my son is right now. So I had to throw that out there. But we'll see what happens in March Madness.
That's right. Should be fun. So
thank you so much, Scott, for joining us today.
Great to be on.